how do I make money but then keep the money?
Mm.
And in real estate's the best vehicle to do it. Why do you think Bill Gates is out buying so much land? Why do you think Apple's buying so much land? Why do you think these car dealerships buy the land that they build the factories on? Because they understand the value of the property, the land,
Yeah.
right? They understand what that means to the entity.
McDonald's is a perfect example. I mean, most people think McDonald's is a fast food business, but in all reality, they're a real estate company.
That's it.
They own almost all their real estate.
Yep.
And then they just rent out the spot to operators.
That's right. They lease it out and
they're
franchise it out.
They're the landlord. And they collect a franchise fee. So it's a genius model. And then, think about all the real estate they own in the world, compounded over decades and decades and decades. I mean, that's a lot of a lot of appreciation there. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today, we are here in the studio in downtown San Diego, and we got a little sunshine outside, and I'm excited because we are hosting our soft launch and wine tasting at the Hotel Zundel here in Lida, Italy with our investors this afternoon. But I got a special guest who I'm super excited to bring in. He's flipped over 2,400 homes. He wholesales. He's getting into self-storage. I got my man, Justin Colby. Justin, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, brother, for having me, man.
Dude, fresh off the flight in Miami, man. Thanks for coming down, dude. I appreciate you. And you mentioned you're staying over here in Coronado, huh?
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot, dude. Lowe's Hotel. It's amazing. I'm here for what I argue probably one of the best real estate masterminds in the nation with 200 super powerhouse investors. And it's going to be a fun time, man. And the invite to be on this show, man. Let's go.
Who's the mastermind with?
Kent Clothier runs the boardroom.
That's right. Kent was on the show like 3 weeks ago, and I think he was mentioning this mastermind.
Yeah.
He asked me to come by, but I'm like, dude, we got a lot going on with this launch, and then we're closing on another deal here early next week. So I'm like, dude, I don't have the time right now.
Can I get in on that deal, dude? I need to spend about $2 million. Like this week.
Yeah. It actually just finished up, but
damn. All right.
But I can see what I can do after the show.
Let's circle back.
Yeah, we can circle back. But dude, that's exciting, man. You brought your family out here too, huh? Kids?
I did. My 5-month pregnant wife, as we're recording this,
nice,
right?
Dude.
And my 3-year-old daughter, who's now like a 3-nager, and telling me what she's gonna get and what she wants and when she wants it. So it's unique.
That's too funny. Well, dude, so give us a snapshot of what you're doing today in the space. What do you currently own? I know you're looking to buy a bunch of stuff before the tax year is over, but give us a snapshot of what you own today.
Yeah, so I do all single family. I have from the beginning, and my philosophy around that was like lowest barrier of entry. So the breakdown of how I started, I lived in the Bay Area, and so we all know California prices, Bay Area prices. And so when I was broke, bust, and disgusted, and had no money, no connections, no nothing, living on a couch, Repo Man took my car. I mean, I was down and out, right? I figured why not get into single family homes in Phoenix, because during the crash of 2008, which I crashed, dude, homes are going for like 30 grand, 50 grand, like nice homes, like 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And so it was a lower barrier entry. So I've always stayed in that. And so now that I've grown up a little bit, and after 16 years of doing this, I've realized that playing on a bigger scale actually is to the benefit, not just because you can have more wealth accumulation on the big term or make more money monthly in terms of rents, but also the tax depreciation, being able to write off your actual income. So right now I'm buying 2 to 5 homes a week for myself. I'm buying them. So I'll stay in the single family space. I'm wholesaling another 5 to 15 currently. I have a portfolio of a lot of single family, and then the storage facility. I'm buying next week. I close on a 22-door apartment in Birmingham, Alabama. So, I'm very actively in the space, and to answer you directly, I'm just going to go for bigger properties while still keeping the single family going. I'll just go after bigger properties moving forward.
So I got to be honest, like, me being on the commercial side, we're taking down 2, maybe 3 deals a year.
Yeah.
And so these things, they take a while to find. And then once you find them, it takes a while to negotiate them. You go back and forth with the LOI. Then once you have a signed LOI, you're going back and forth with the PSA, multiple revisions back and forth. And then you get on a contract, and then these things take 60 to 90 days to close. And so we're doing 2, maybe 3 deals a year.
Yeah.
And so when you're telling me you said 2 to 5 houses a week you're closing on?
I'm buying 2 to 5 a week.
Wow. So I guess my question is, to me, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot going on and a lot of moving parts to make that happen. So what kind of team does it require to close on 2 to 5 houses a week?
So that team specifically has basically a transactional coordinator, a general manager, we do wholesale, right? So if it doesn't fit my buy box, I'll just wholesale it out because I spend a lot of money marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 dispo people and 2 acquisition. That's the kind of run the just wholesale flipping or wholesaling buying model. Then we have another 3 kind of operational people. That goes for everything from turning on power, dealing with realtors, dealing with property managers, etc. Right? So I think I have 9 or 10 people on the team.
And how do you determine if you're going to flip this home or if you're going to wholesale it, or maybe you're going to keep it?
You know, it's funny. So we stick into a very specific buy box in terms of price. So I try to stay under 250 ARV, right? So I want to buy it, I want to rehab it, and I want that end value to be under 250 in an ideal world. That gives me whatever I want to do. I can flip that or I can keep it as a rental, right? So we always buy so it fits both models. So right now, what my team's really doing is like when the deal's done rehabbing, when we get the quote from my lender, like I just got a quote for 8.5 and I was expecting 7.5. So I said, well, let's just flip this. We're going to net $47,000 on the flip because we bought it right. So it just makes more sense to take the profit. There's another deal that just the numbers work a little bit better, still really thick in terms of rental income, even at 8.5. So then we rewrote that one at 8.5. We still were making $600 a month. We're going to keep it, right?
Yeah.
So the one that we're flipping and why we're choosing to flip this one and sell it is because we were going to net like $119 a month. It's tough to get excited about that, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting.
You know,
it's
I mean,
tough.
I literally just spent that on an Uber to get here, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really tough to get excited about that. And I talk about this all the time. You know, Bigger Pockets pushes a lot of this, you know, get into real estate investing. It's all about the passive income, financial freedom, you know, get up to, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month in passive income and retire, go live on the beach. It's going to take a lot of rentals to do that. And a lot of those folks that buy into that, they're like, oh, why are you flipping? It's such an active thing. But I'm like, dude, like you just mentioned that one deal, you're going to flip it and make $48,000. On the flip side, you refi hold that thing. Maybe you make $100, $200 a month. At $200 a month, what is that? $2,400 a year?
Bro.
How many years, $200 a month in passive income is it going to take to recoup that $48,000 that you could have gotten in one swoop?
Exactly. And I even bring it to another point for a lot of people who are like all excited about buying rentals, single family specifically, not necessarily what you do. I love what you do. For single family, if you can't do it at scale, I would be cautious. If you can buy rentals at scale or do it at a very consistent pace, let's just say someone can do 2 to 4 a year every single year. Okay, good. And do the BRRRR model, buy it, remodel it, rent it, refi out. And you can hold a pace. Then you can make an argument for doing a deal that's going to make you, let's just say $200 net, right? Because inevitably there's going to be costs to these, like an AC going out, the pool pump breaks, that is going to eat up your entire year's worth of profit when you're making $200.
Yeah, or what if the roof needs to be replaced? Now that's the next 5 years of cash flow.
Totally.
Like how do you...
But if you can buy at scale, then the others can lift up the sinking ship, right? That's why I do what I do is if I can buy 2 to 5 a week, then if I'm buying, and I'm just using the numbers, right? So 2 a week is 8 a month. And 2 of those are kind of like, oh man, we didn't see this expense happening. But we have the other 6 to hold up the 2. And I do this every month. Now I'm buying at scale, right? And now I can actually afford to have some losers, if you will.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
I get that.
That's why to your point, to finish that, like if you're going to buy 1 a year,
it's tough.
It's just tough. And especially if you have a W-2. So the tricky part for me is I love rentals and I want people to be buying real estate. I want people to be in your space, my space, everybody, right? But if you have a W-2s where I don't use your own capital, if you saved up 50 grand to go buy a rental, don't do it. Learn how to do the BRRRR, learn how to use other people's money, refi out all the money you possibly can, buy it right, but don't just go buy a rental and use up all your money.
I agree. I think one of the most naive things you could do as a new real estate investor is save up for like a 20-25% down payment and then go buy a turnkey property, single family, and just park that 20-25%, sink it into that property. And then what's the next move for you, right? You need some sort of way to you know, recoup the money out. So that's why I love the BRRRR method. I think it works with all different asset classes, not just single family, but you can do it, you know, on the commercial side. I know we're doing it with boutique hotels right now, but you know, I would say to this date, I bought almost every deal to where I added enough value to where I can pull money out, or I got in with some sort of creative financing or very no and low money down to where I don't have a lot of money in
No
these
one
deals.
low. I like that. I'm
Yeah.
taking that from you, brother.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that is when you don't have a lot of money in these deals or you can pull all your money out via refinance,
That's right.
your return on investment moving forward is close to infinite.
Yep.
Very, very high. And so it just the returns, takes a lot of risk off the table. But it is harder to do right now with the interest rate environment that we're in.
Yeah, so it's funny because I've been posting a lot about these people who are bitching about the interest rate. I don't love it. Don't get me wrong, but there's a image, and your team might be able to find this and post it on the YouTube. There's a image I'll send you actually because I downloaded it. Historically speaking, for the last 50 years, our current 7.5% interest rate for home owner OC loans is in like the 5% of the best rates ever. Meaning 95% of the last 50 years had higher interest rates than 7.5%. But people got so delusional about COVID and 2.8% or 3% that now their entitlement of like, oh, I should have a cheaper interest rate. So this is crazy. But if you go historically looking at all 50 years, we're in like the 5% of the best rate right now at 7.5, right? The rest of it was over that number.
Yeah.
So I think people, and then the value. So I just put a post up that the Fed is likely going to start to ratchet down interest rates. If people aren't buying now, the homes are only going to get more expensive. So if you buy now at 7.5%, or if you wait to get your 6.5%, but the home went up 50 grand, you're actually going to be paying more monthly. And it's going to go up 50 grand because there's going to be less homes to buy because people are getting better rates. And there's no more new inventory coming out. That's why what you're doing is so brilliant because you're creating your own inventory. You're finding a boutique hotel, creating an opportunity to add the value, right? I just think people need to understand and really know more about what's actually happening because you shouldn't worry about the interest rate, right? It's all math. If I can go and refi, let's just say in the example of me on a single family home making $200 a month, which isn't sexy, but in 2 years I can go and refi because it gained $75,000 worth of equity. I have a big equity margin now. I bought it right and the rates are back down to 5.75. Then I'll do that because of the long run, because I want bankability in my real estate portfolio. And what that means is the same reason you probably will. I want to go to a bank in 5 years and say, give me $5 million of cash against the equity based around all the appreciation, based around me buying it right, based around the pay down. And now I'm going to take that 5 million and go buy a boutique hotel with you. Or I'm going to take the 5 million, I'm going to put it in my pocket tax free.
Yeah.
And does that make sense? So
it does, dude.
I'm just tired of people bitching about interest rates, dude. It's just math.
For sure. And I've been saying this for a while now. We are in a massive shortage of housing across America. I've read articles, some say 5, 6, 7 million housing units short of where we should be to meet the supply. There's about 335 million Americans. And, if you look at the demographics, the baby boomers are living a lot longer. They're not moving into retirement homes as early as they once were. And they're not selling off their homes, right?
Yep.
And then you got the millennial generation who is buying their first homes. They're starting families. And then the Gen Z behind them, which is just as big, they're moving out of their parents' house for the first time. They're renting apartments. Some of them are starting to buy homes now. And so, yes, we are in a high interest rate environment and the Fed has all the control. And there's a lot of bad news in the marketplace, right? And so there is a slowdown in buyer demand. But, we're seeing articles out there. You just posted one recently. I'm seeing a lot of articles in the last couple of weeks saying how these are economists saying that they think the Fed is going to do multiple rate cuts in 2024. Yep. So I think we're going to see a reduction. Now, obviously this is all speculation and I'm willing to be wrong here. But if I'm a betting man, I believe the Fed is going to cut rates anywhere from 100 basis points to maybe 175 basis points in 2024.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe 100 to 150. Now, if this happens, we are going to see all the news, the bad news in the marketplace switch to good news. We're going to see a lot of buyers that were on the sidelines jump in. And now all of a sudden we're going to be in an environment to where there's 20 offers on all these properties. And so what is that going to do to purchase prices? That's going to drive them up. If you look at the supply, you look at the demand, the fundamentals are good. The interest rate is just, a little bit high right now. So I believe the next 3 to 4 months, right now is the time. If you want to go out there and, you want to buy a property and you're going to hold it long term, I have no issues buying a good deal in a good location right now. If you can pick it up at a discount because there's not a lot of buyer demand and you're thinking long term.
I don't either. I like I said, I want people to get in the game. I just want them to do it the right way, like what you do, what I do. Do the BRRRR method. Don't just buy a home and then throw paint on the cabinets to turn them white and then just rent it, right? Like add value to the home, create the value add, and then have an equity play that you can refi out of a higher interest rate because you have so much damn equity. Now that takes capital, right? That's what everyone worries about. I get that. But
Mhm.
understanding how to raise capital, understanding how to, even if you do have 50 grand of your life savings, make sure you're buying it right, using it right, so you can do the BRRRR method and refi 50 grand back out, or call it 40 grand. Maybe you leave 10 in. Just don't leave it all in there. Or what I've done a lot, raise money instead of raising money with debt, give them equity,
Mhm.
right? So quite literally, several of my projects, we are giving away equity rather than debt. Why? I can move faster and buy more. People want the upside. They don't want to just be a lender necessarily. I also have lenders that I'll pay 8 to 12%, somewhere in between there. But if I can bring someone into a long-term deal and give them some equity, give them some upside, give them some depreciation so that they can have tax write-offs too, I'll be able to 2, 3, 4, 5x the amount I'm able to buy because people want that.
Mhm. Where are you mostly buying these homes, and maybe talk a little bit about what types of renovations you're doing? If you love real estate investing, passive income, and tax benefits, but don't have the time, my company, Summers Capital, is buying boutique hotels right now. We source the deals, we renovate the properties, and we even handle all the day-to-day management, making it truly hands-off for our investors. If you want to learn more to see if we can help you, visit summerscapital.com/invest to book a call with our team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show.
So appreciating markets. So I like the whole state of Florida. I think Florida as a state is going to just continue to appreciate and appreciate. I still think there's affordable housing in Florida, not Miami, but
Mhm.
Florida, like Jacksonville and Pensacola and Central Florida.
Why do you say not Miami?
It's just a tough market. And by the way, all markets are tough. There's no like easy market. Just it's hyper competitive. It has a lot of money flowing to it. A lot of people are moving there. The appreciation is insane. It's one of those markets. Phoenix, Miami, I'd throw San Diego in there, like just very difficult markets. There's not, you got to be I would say most newbies shouldn't be playing in those playgrounds. You got to be a killer. You got to be able to fight the fight. Cause in my opinion, those are like gunfights. That's not a knife fight. It's not a dog fight. Those are gunfights every single day. You're
Mhm.
going into a gunfight and you can make a lot of money in Miami. You can make a lot of money. I made tens and tens of millions of dollars in Phoenix, but it's cause I was kind of raised into that, right? I got into Phoenix in 2007. And so I went through that whole thing. So I had the ability to withstand how much competition was in Phoenix. But I love Alabama right now. I think it is truly still affordable housing. And I know there's going to be more and more people going in there. Businesses are going in Alabama now. I love North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida. I love Dallas as a market, more for flipping than rentals. Oklahoma, I love. So I like markets that have upside. I like markets that have appreciation. I like markets that have affordability. Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to exit my single family portfolio every 5 years, which is kind of my plan, right? I mean,
You're not holding these things for 15, 20 years.
I'll probably exit every 5, take the equity 1031
Trade
into,
up.
and so I want to be able to create that appreciation, then turn 31 every 5 years. And so I want those type of markets that are affordable. Give me 2 exit strategies. Again, it goes back to the exit strategy. I want to make sure I can flip something if it doesn't turn out to be a good rental.
Mm.
Vice versa. If it doesn't turn out to be a good flip, I want to make sure it's a decent rental. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I'm never going to not do single families. I don't think anything can happen, because now where I'm going is I want to continue to make that money actively with wholesaling and flipping. But when I hold something, whether storage or an apartment complex, I'm doing it less per se about the active income. I want it to be profitable. But now my mind's really saying, okay, based around my income and my tax needs, I need to be buying assets that have 2 things, not the rental versus flip. I need the rental versus and depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where this next evolution of what I'm looking at, right? So when people refer to Grant and all these other, Donald Trump's a great example. Why don't these guys pay taxes? Because every year they go out and they make massive investments in things that can take away the IRS taxing them, whether it be a building in New York or a private jet in the helicopters. Those things are depreciable
Mm-hmm.
year 1. But guess what? The next year you got to go do it again. That's the trick on those. So when I go buy my 22 doors in Birmingham, year 1, I'll be able to do rapid depreciation around cost seg. I'll get the entire tax write-off in year 1.
Massive.
But now I'm done. So it's huge. So I'll wipe out a $250,000 to $400,000 tax bill on that one asset on year 1. Awesome. But now next year I don't get any love on that asset.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's still got to be a performing asset. So I still need to be able to make sure it's making us money, but I also need to be able to buy it every single year to go buy another one of those things, right? That's what they don't tell you about the jet is if you do it in that way, well, great. So you bought the jet year one, you have this 1-for-1 write-off. You buy it for $1 million, you get $1 million in write-off. What are you gonna do next year?
Right. Yeah, no, that's now I guess if you don't have $1 million of they're going to use all in that first year, you could roll some of that
You
over
roll
to
that over
following
it, that's
years. Or let's say you finance the jet, like Chris Crone said, is he put 30% down on his jet, and then he was able to write off the entire thing.
That's right.
So that makes a little bit of sense. But
Same thing with apartments though, right? I mean, you like I'm gonna buy this apartment with a hard money loan to start because I have to remodel the damn thing. So I'm only putting down 20%, but I'll be able to write off the whole thing.
yeah, it's massive. It's a massive play. And by the way, I was out in Miami, as you alluded to, and we all know you live in Miami.
Yeah.
And I was out there recording a pod with investor Girl Britt. What was the name of that studio? That was a sick studio.
The Move.
The Move.
Yeah,
Your buddies with
I'll
Drew?
plug Move and Drew all day long.
Yeah.
If you're in Miami, you need to be doing podcasts at the Move. Shout out to Drew and the Move.
Yeah, he's great. And then that studio was awesome. But dude, had I known, we would have connected and ran one out there, man. That
Well, when you
fun.
come back out, because you should.
Yeah.
We'll run one for my podcast.
I'm down. What's the name of your pod?
The Science of Flipping is the real estate one.
I like that.
And I'm launching Entrepreneur DNA this Christmas.
Okay. What's that one
I've
about?
sat on it for a while, but I've interviewed Grant Cardone, Brad Lee, Garrett J. White, you name the name, right? Dan Fleischman, all these names, because I want people to understand what we really go through with entrepreneurship, right? It's not necessarily real estate based. It's being an entrepreneur, the pros and cons to all of it, right?
Yeah.
The ups and the downs, the stresses, the good days, the bad days. And so that is coming out this Christmas. It's going to be a heavy hitter. I think that's going to have a lot of success.
I love that. I'm supposed to go out there again in January. I think it's like third week of January for some like small like mastermind thing
Let's rock,
with
dude.
Jordan Belford.
Yeah, hit me up. We
I
could
will.
either do one for the Entrepreneur DNA and or Science of Flipping.
Okay.
Science of Flipping is titled that, but it's a real estate podcast, right? So it's not just about fix and flipping. It'd be very interesting to have you on that one because of your model. I love your model.
Yeah.
For all the tax write-off purposes.
No,
Yeah, it seems sexy, right? Run a hotel or two or three or 10.
there's a lot of them out there in Miami.
Well, so interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw one of my most recent posts about the model that I just talked about raising money, bring people in on equity. So one of the people or the person that really wrapped my head around that was Dave Grutman, which I'm sure you know. He runs several of the best and hottest, sexiest restaurants, but now he's getting into these hotels and Club Live and all these things. But his whole model is, hey, come in on the equity side, give me the 10, 20, $30 million to do this build out and come in on the equity. And now I can go do more of them.
Yeah. I think that's pretty badass. I had someone on recently, and he's like a big chef out here in San Diego.
Cool.
And he wants to get into the boutique hotel space. So I thought it's kind of cool. I feel like if you have an eye for designing restaurants, hotels are also hospitality. So there's a lot of like carryover. Brian Malarkey. So anyhow, so I saw a post on your Instagram. You put it out a little while back, but you were talking about it was like the worst deal you've ever done. And I believe it was out in Scottsdale or somewhere in Phoenix. And you were kind of walking through that deal. Tell us about that deal. You mind sharing it?
So there's a couple.
Okay.
We can't always win, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple. So I had a development deal that went really south in Mesa, Arizona. That was a several multi-7-figure loss. It also ended up in a damn lawsuit. And so then there's that whole thing. But I think the post you're referencing is $1 million flip that went south.
That was
and
it.
I lost $250,000.
And that was in Scottsdale?
That was in like North Phoenix, which again, something like
close to Scottsdale.
Yeah, but wasn't Scottsdale. You take that same home and you put that in Scottsdale, it sells. I make my $800,000 that I thought I was going to make or whatever it was, $400,000 I think I was going to make. It would have sold. I wasn't in Scottsdale. So these little things. So there's a lot to learn from this. But when you go that far outside of your sweet spot, right? And you take a flyer, you're taking a risk, you're going for it, you're taking the big swing, then you can miss big. And so I've always stayed at this lower price point, $300,000 and under. And so then I went to the multi-million-dollar price point. Well, there's little things that you just don't really think about when you're buying a $200,000 home versus a $1.1 million home.
Mm-hmm.
Something as simple as like having the master suite. The only bedroom upstairs is the master suite. The other 4 bedrooms were on the first floor. This area is affluent, but it had older people living in it. It was a little bit older of a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't want to walk upstairs to their master suite every night. And that was a big detractor. We were priced right. We had a lot of people through. We had a lot of compliments on the finishes. I don't want to have a master suite upstairs. And there's 2 flights of stairs. It wasn't like just one little flight. The other thing is that price point in this area is the right price point, but it's not so highly sought after because you don't have the Scottsdale zip codes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. So if I wanted to try to find younger families, they want to be in the right school systems. They want to be in the right zip codes, etc. Well, I wasn't in that.
Yeah, the zip code out there is it's a lot. But like you alluded to, I imagine if you were in, or if you had a Scottsdale mailing address, that deal would have made a lot of money.
Yep.
I have a luxury Airbnb out there in North Scottsdale, but
Yeah.
it's actually in what you call the magic zip code of Scottsdale. The reason they call it the magic zip code is because it's on the Phoenix side, so you pay the lower property taxes, but you have a Scottsdale mailing address.
That's right.
And you still have access to the Paradise Valley school system where all the schools are 9s and 10s.
That's it.
But you also pay the lower property taxes. So on the Phoenix side, I believe the property taxes, last time I looked, are like 0.067%.
Yeah.
Right? Less than 100 basis points. So 67 basis points property taxes. It's 85254. And they call it the magic zip code because of that. So I bought that property out there, did a good job with the renovation. Now it's a luxury short-term rental.
Good.
And
how's that going, by the way? Because I know there's been a lot of crackdown in Scottsdale just about.
Yeah, it's going really good.
Short
So,
terms.
I thought another reason I like this magic zip code for the STR stuff is I thought Scottsdale had a higher chance of regulating before the city of Phoenix, just because
That's
Scottsdale's
right.
a little bit higher end, a little bit more affluent, and so I
Totally.
can see them regulating before Phoenix. But it's been going well, man. It's funny, when we were doing the reno and just launched it, there was like a couple complaints in the neighborhood. The property was like on Fox 10,
Okay.
Phoenix.
Little couple parties.
Yeah, a couple parties, but the funny thing is we went out there and hosted a meetup with Pace Morby. It was like
Okay.
300 people.
Yeah.
And like the neighbors were showing up like, hey, like this is a short-term rental. Like, no, like the owner's here. Like this is just like a private like real estate meetup. But anyways, that said, we haven't had any issues since. The reviews online are like really stellar. People love
Good.
that property. It's
Good.
630. We had Machine Gun Kelly book it for Super Bowl
Okay.
last
Dude,
year.
I need to see this.
But he canceled. He canceled like a month before. So they didn't end up booking it. We had another big name person come through and book it. And I can't say who it was. But all that to say, it's doing really well. The team manages it. And I need to get out there and like go hang out in this property more often. It's badass. It's like it's got a beach volleyball court, pickleball court, full court basketball. We did like Phoenix Suns colors.
Dope.
It's got a speakeasy.
What was your buy on it?
We bought it for 2.4.
What did you put into it?
Put in about 800. So all in 3.2 with plus holding costs. And then it appraised 9 months later for 4.89.
I was going to say, when you play, so someone just asked me, they saw me in the lobby and they were asking me just a couple questions, and they were asking me, would I buy this, I don't know, 2-point-something million dollar. And my scars are still wounded from the high end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know what you're doing and you know the model, dude, it can be a killer model, right? I mean, you have so much equity in that deal. It probably rents for an absolute premium. It's beautiful. It's in a great location. So I'm not downing that model at all. It just has never been my model.
Yeah.
And I took a swing of the bat.
Yeah.
And brother, I missed it. Right.
Dude,
and it happens. And so I'm not, by the way, I'm not, for all those out there following me or whatever, I'm not scared to share my losses. I think people need to realize, like, I don't shit gold every day. Right.
Yeah.
Like my days aren't always puppy dollars and rainbows. Every deal I do doesn't always make money. I just sold one of our duplexes and I had to cut a check at closing to close it as a seller because it was a deal that just turned into a dog deal because of the neighborhood and I didn't want it. And I was willing to take a loss on that deal just to not have the headaches. Right. And so just so everyone realizes, like, whether it's Rich, whether it's me, whether it's the people that you guys are looking up to and viewing as people that you want to idolize, understand that not all we do turns into gold, right? There are bad deals that get done that we have to figure out how to make them the best we can.
Dude, I love that you brought that up because it's something that's not talked about enough. I think there's a lot of, real estate entrepreneurs out there putting out content, building their brands. And, I think a lot of people talk about the wins, but they don't talk about the losses.
For sure.
Dude, I make so many mistakes, bro.
Yeah.
The team knows. Dude, we make so many mistakes every single day, every single week. And there's always ups and downs in this journey, man. And you got wins, but you got losses as well.
Totally.
And the cool thing is like a lot of these losses we learn from,
Yeah.
and we get better, and we learn from them. But I think the only way that it's like an issue is if you're going to repeat the same mistakes over and
That's
over
right.
and not learn from them. But as long as you're learning from them, you're getting better every single week. You just got to enjoy the process, because it's just all about the journey. And I love this game though. I'm addicted to it.
Me too. My wife is like, when are you gonna stop working like this? Like,
Yeah.
you are still grinding your ass. And I'm like, I don't know if I ever will. And it's because I'm addicted to real estate. Now, how, like I was mentioning, how I approach real estate may change. It may be a lot less transactional in the next 5 to 10 years for me. Not as many wholesales or flips, more apartments. But man, I am addicted to real estate. I'm also addicted to entrepreneurship, frankly. I own 4 or 5 different companies now. Like, I love it. But, listen, again, even this morning, I'm putting out fires. Things don't go right all the time.
Do you, in a weird way, like, because I go through this all the time where I'm like, we go through periods to where we take on too many projects, and then we feel a little bit overwhelmed. And then, like you said, we're always putting out fires every week. But in a weird way, do you like actually kind of like it? Hey guys, real quick, the only way this show grows, the only way we continue to bring on bigger and better guests is if you guys rate, review, and share the show. So if you could take 2 seconds or the click of the thumb to review on Apple or Spotify, it will mean the world to me. But more importantly, we'll be able to reach more entrepreneurs and more real estate investors and help them build wealth through this podcast. Now back to the show.
It keeps you alive, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, this is that thing that like people miss when they have a W-2 job. They don't get that, like, oh, I have a need to go do something, right? There's no purpose in people's lives when they're stuck behind the desk most often, right? And so for us, like, my purpose has really been about people now. So like, I need to make sure in the real estate space, I have 10 people in that team and the other companies, but like, I need to make sure they eat, they put food on the table. How do I make sure that happens each and every week and day and month and whatever, right? And so now it becomes a leadership game. It becomes this adrenaline rush. How do I make this right? Like, I have one business that like trajectory is there, but how do I make sure it does it, right? Because a young company, good revenues, good everything, but like, I need to make sure it sustains that. So it's that, like, how do I make sure I win on this? So 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I get uncomfortable for periods, and sometimes I'll feel overwhelmed, but it's because I'm growing.
Yep.
And I'm really pushing my comfort zone. And then I'll get through it. I'll figure it out. I'll get through the other side, and then I'll like take a breather. Like, man, it was all worth it. And then I'll get bored and be like, all right, what's the next thing?
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
What's
Sit
the
around?
next level? And I don't think that's ever going to stop, because at least for me, happiness stems from growth and progress. So the second I stop growing, the second I stop progressing, I'm not happy.
Yeah. It's fulfilling. The thing for me is, if I can be fulfilled, then I can give more, right? So this has turned into more of a people game for me, frankly, is how do I make more impact on people, create more opportunities, and do more good? And how do I do more of that? I love real estate, but is like buying a 22 door in Birmingham, Alabama, like ultimately that fulfilling? No, it's really not, right? Cool, fun, exciting to kind of get it done. But how do I, like, so I just brought in some of my team members. My general manager gets a percentage of all my ownership. He didn't bring the money. He didn't do the things I'm doing, but I'm giving it to him, because if I can help change his life, where does that trickle down? What kind of trickle down effect does that happen into his kids and what he can give? So all my rentals, all what I'm buying to keep, I'm giving him percentages on. So how do I play that game bigger? How do I play that game deeper? How do I change, right? And that is the fulfilling part. Then I can say, how much more can I possibly do? So that's kind of the trajectory I'm on. I'll always be in real estate, but I really want to try to change people's lives by doing it, right? Because I've already changed mine. So now how do I do make a bigger impact within those people? Maybe it's only a handful of people.
Yeah.
But that, the same reason why you and I both run coaching platforms or masterminds is because I want to make impact. That's where the feeling of fulfillment comes from, and purpose, not the hotel or the multi-units. It's the people.
Yeah. I love that you do that with your GM. You give a slice of equity and all the stuff that you're doing. I do something similar with some of the girls on the team, where all these deals we buy, they get a slice of ownership and equity in all these deals that we buy, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But also, it creates an alignment of interest for the deal to go well.
You want to keep people, by the way, this is how you do it. People are like, oh man, how do I keep a team? I'm always, give them something. Like, don't be greedy.
Mhm.
Get them bought into what you're doing, why you're doing it, the hustle, the grind. You and I work, like I work 7 days a week, frankly, right? And so if I'm going to do that, then I want them to do something similar. If I'm willing to do it, well, if I'm going to ask them to do that,
Yeah.
I want them to see the upside. That's how I can keep people.
Yeah. I agree. I don't want constant turnover. Like I want good people, and I want, good people to stick it through to the end. And, I tell the team all the time, like the best part is this is just the beginning. Like literally this is just the beginning.
Totally.
We are just getting warmed up, and, I don't want to do it alone.
No, hell no. I say this a lot to my science flipping members is like, I'm hell bent on creating business partners. Why? So I don't want to just teach someone how to go flip a home or find a deal. I don't want to just teach. I want to create business partners, because when you get to the top of the mountain, and you and I have both been at the top of the mountain, but you look around and it's just you, it's kind of sucky. You're
Hmm.
kind of like, that's really cool, but now I'm lonely and it's just, I'm up here and you're just like, ugh. At least I was, right? I just like, okay. I mean, I guess that's cool. But if I can bring people with, and that's why I like, as part of my community, I do these partner meetings every quarter. Is we come in for a full day and they sit down with my team. I show them, my contractor talks about all the deals, the rehabs we're doing, the budgeting, the mistakes that are being made. They get like in my business, right?
Hmm.
They see what I'm about to do in 2024 going forward. What is our trajectory? What do we need? Blah, blah, blah. So I do these partner meetings as well for one day with people that are in my business. We're doing deals together. We're buying deals together. We're wholesaling deals together. Some are lending money on our deals so they can see what I'm doing, right? But it's big because now I'm bringing them inside my world. I'm creating something big for them, right? That ultimately they could be a part of my next multi-unit or my next storage or whatever case may be.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, man, with all these homes that you've flipped, over 2,400 homes, and all these different things that you're doing, what is the best deal you've ever done?
The next one.
I like that.
Yeah. All jokes aside, like probably my losses to some extent, probably that bigger loss that we just talked about. And I don't, listen, I know it
That was
sounds
the development deal out there in Arizona?
no, just the $1 million flip.
Got it.
Listen, I don't think there was a best deal in terms of like what made me the most money, because I didn't learn anything. Nothing happened. Fine. It made me the most money, but that's fine. I think for me, if I had to pinpoint one, I would say the lessons I've learned on some of the bigger losses probably make them the best deals, because so much comes out of that. And I would tell you that deal happened, the big loss happened in 2017, maybe 2017. And so how much growth have I had in that 6-year trajectory, right?
Mhm.
Or 7-year trajectory? Like so much.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that has come from that one specific deal that I don't, if you don't go through that moment, you can kind of look back and say, I don't know if I'd be where I'm at, frankly. Would I just still be doing this? Would I still be living in Phoenix? Would I still be just doing the same old and not growing in the way I've grown? Would I be owning all these homes as rentals? I don't know. But I can tell you my life was so affected by that loss, right? $250,000 loss is nothing to like that. It really changed everything. My paradigms, my beliefs, structure, partnerships, everything it changed, right?
Yeah.
Right then and right there. Because it ultimately also ended up in a lawsuit, which dragged on for 2 years that I won, if you can win a lawsuit, but had to pay to defend myself to win the lawsuit, right?
What was the suit all about?
Money, right? So I had a private money lender in the deal. They didn't want to lose. I'm like, yeah, but we all lost. Well, I don't want to lose my money. I don't want to lose my money. I don't. What,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'm going to sue you, right? And so you go, yeah, but you have no grounds. And so that's why I won. It was a waste of everyone's time, but I had to pay my lawyer to defend me, and it takes forever because nothing moves fast. And so it just sucks. And you're just like, the agreement said it was a partnership. The agreement did not say you were a lender that were owed your money back.
Yeah.
And it just took forever to have them say, okay, I acquiesce.
Yeah, I feel like anytime you get legal involved, I mean,
No
the
one
bills
wins.
just start. Yeah, no one wins. That the bills just start racking up really quickly. Even simple stuff like having revisions to a PSA, and it's like that stuff adds up quickly.
Oh, fast.
SEC legal, that can be super expensive. So, and then what you're talking about, I
Yeah.
mean, that adds up even quicker. So,
Unfortunately, anyone can sue anyone for any reason at this point. And that's a shitty place to be, because like even innocent, silly little mistakes, I've seen people get sued over that are super innocent and no, real damage was done. And so you just go, well, are you going to put your energy, time, effort, spirit into defending yourself, or do you just settle? And anyone that comes to me, I always say the same thing: settle. You're in the right. I get it. Cut the check.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it. It is not worth your time suck, your energy, your emotional. Like, it'll break up family, you know what I mean? Because you get so sucked into this thing. Just settle. Just be done. Right? Unless you have a stack of cash that you're really, the alternative, you need to be ready to go to the mat. You take that person all the way out knowing that you're right, but you're going to have to pay your lawyer to go do that. So then it's like, what's the difference?
Yeah. No, I agree, man. There was one time where I was buying a property and I think it was $100K EMD and canceled the contract. But what a lot of people don't realize is with these contracts, whenever the buyer cancels the contract, the seller still has to release the EMD. The escrow company, they're just the middleman.
Yep.
And so they're just doing what they're instructed to do by the seller and the buyer. And so the buyer cancels the contract, the seller still needs to agree to release the EMD. So this particular seller did not agree to release the EMD, even though we were still, within our rights to do so. And the broker, it turns out after, was like, yeah, the seller is notorious for doing this with buyers. And so now on the buy side, forced to bring in legal, starts adding up quickly. Well, it's like, it's 100K EMD, which is a good chunk, but you go back and forth enough times, it's like, well, now you're eating away at that 100K.
Totally.
So
even if you get it back, you paid the lawyer 60, 70 grand, and you're just like,
yeah.
And I'm a year into this dogfight, and you just go, I don't know.
So in this situation, the legal counsel advised, like, just settle, because it's probably going to be the better net outcome. And
That's
so
right.
I ended up forfeiting like 20 grand of that EMD to the seller to get the rest back, even though, it was, So it's just, in those situations, like you alluded to, it's a perfect example. It's like a lot of times it's just better to settle, and you got to factor the time too.
That's it.
And the headaches and all that stuff. I don't have the time for all that stuff, man.
You're married, right?
Not married.
Not married. Okay.
No.
So I'm married. So you even just think of like the emotional suck that takes you out, and then you got to go be present for your daughter and your wife, and just settle. Like, you don't need that, right?
No. I'm a pretty drama-free dude.
Yeah. Like, just be done, right? Like, I don't, move on. Like, I'm a big, where's your energy and focus being spent? And it should be creating revenue, creating more opportunities, finding the next hotel, not fighting this guy about this. Give him the 20 grand and move on.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel good, but it's the better answer.
I agree. And I also think, it's not just this situation, but there could be any situation out there. Sometimes it's a sign of maturity when you can just say, you know what? It is what it is.
Yep.
We're going to move on.
That's right.
Rather than just battling this thing to the end. So dude, I'm curious, like, you got a lot going on, man. What's next for you, man? What's on the horizon for 2024?
I think thinking different for me is going to be really big, kind of going into 2024 is to really look at what I kind of mentioned previously, is just keep the active income really high, but then also start to play in the big boy leagues of like, how do I make so much money that I'm forced to be buying these bigger assets that are good performing assets, buying them right, but really strategically going into them like, hey, I need $500,000 worth of write-offs, me personally. So that means I need to go buy, $3.5 million worth of apartments or whatever that is, right? The equation. So I think that's going to be a big thing going out for me, is I'm going to keep the, smaller multi-units, the single family, that whole thing is going to continue. But I'm going to really start to treating it like, thinking the way the big boys, like we talked about the mastermind. I mean, this room full of 200 people they're big players, right? From everything from storage to commercial to, single families. I mean, there's just people in this room that think at a really high level, and I want to start getting my thought process more around how do I make money, but then keep the money. And in real estate's the best vehicle to do it. Why do you think Bill Gates is out buying so much land? Why do you think Apple's buying so much land? Why do you think these car dealerships buy the land that they build the factories on? Because they understand the value of the property, the land.
Yeah.
Right? They understand what that means to the entity.
McDonald's is a perfect example. I mean, most people think McDonald's is a fast food business, but in all reality, they're a real estate company.
That's it.
They own almost all their real estate.
Yep.
And then they just rent out the spot to operators.
That's right. They lease it out and
they're the landlord, and they collect a franchise fee. So it's a genius model. And then, think about all the real estate they own in the world, compounded over decades and decades and decades. I mean, that's a lot of a lot of appreciation there.
No doubt.
Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show, Justin. It's been a pleasure just chatting with you. And dude, when I get out to Miami
Let's do this
late
thing.
next month, dude,
Yeah.
I'd love to run it back on your show, bro.
I appreciate you having me, dude.
Yeah. He's Justin Colby. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.